If you live in West Windsor Township, New Jersey, or thinking about moving there, or just want to understand why it's such a great place to live and what's happening in the real estate market, you're in the right place. I'm Josh Wilton, and this is the Wilton Report. Stay tuned. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Wilton Report. Again, if you have watched this before and you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. It helps the broadcast. If you know anybody thinking of buying or selling, or yourself in the market, always feel free to share my cell. But let's get to it. West Windsor, one of the most scorchingly hot real estate markets, probably in the state, definitely in the county. So West Windsor, let's talk about it. It's sort of like Princeton light, meaning crazy good academics, probably better rights, public schools than Princeton, amazing commuter convenience. They have a lot of new townhouse communities and rental communities built finally right on the train station. And they're developing the downtown area to make it more walkable and more of a destination than it's ever been. You used to drive through West Windsor. Honestly, there was a couple of real estate offices and it looked kind of decrepit. Now, like, shops are going up, restaurants are moving in. It's a completely different environment than it was, when I moved here 20 years ago. So, and again, great housing stock. It's one of the smartest value adjacent towns in the region. So let's talk about it. So West Windsor, the origin, right? West Windsor was originally in the 1700s, part of Windsor Township, where I'm sitting in the Queenston neighborhood of Princeton. So again, the town of Kingston, town of Queenston, town of Princeton. The Queenston neighborhood was part of West Windsor, believe it or not. Again, settled by the in the 1700s by the English and the Dutch. And it became West Windsor Township in 1797. East Windsor split off in 1816. So there you go, a little bit of historical fact. So again, until recently, and I mean like the 1960s and 70s, West Windsor was an agricultural town. It was known for grain farming, dairy operations, and orchard. I had heard over the years pig farms. I don't know that factually, but when I moved here in the real estate business, people would talk about there was a lot of pig farms in West Windsor. So there you go. A lot of today's housing, all those subdivisions, sits on former farmland that really wasn't subdivided till the 1960s. So what makes West Windsor so great? The train. So the Pennsylvania Railroad arrived in West Windsor in 1800, transformed the area. Princeton Junction, which is the train station, became a key stop because farmers could ship their goods to New York and Philadelphia, which is where if you go to the train station at 5:30, 6:30 in the morning, everybody's going to one of those two places because access to jobs, and when it started was access to markets, right, was everything. So that train station laid the foundation for what West Windsor is today, which is an amazing commuter town that's developing into its own community with its own identity as a downtown. So again, Princeton Junction was named for, yes, you guessed it, Princeton, because it was the part of West Windsor that was connected by the rail lines to Princeton. So Princeton has its own little rail line called the Dinky. So again, it's not a marketing gimmick like Princeton Junction, it's Princeton, whatever. No, it was actually named that way deliberately because of the rail lines. The rail lines have an amazing history within Princeton Junction or West Windsor. So Grover's Mill, right? If you've heard of Orson Welles in the War of the Worlds in 1938, he went on this radio broadcast and he referenced Grover's Mill as the alien landing site. That's in West Windsor, right? So people are like freaking out all over the country because of Orson Welles about little old West Windsor back in 1938. It is commemorated. I think there's an annual thing. I've never been, full disclosure. But again, that particular neighborhood, that particular section of town has a pretty strong identity to that claim, that, 10 minutes of fame that Orson Welles gave them. The other, one of the oldest parts of town is called Port Mercer. And it's developed along the Delaware and Raritan Canal. So again, back in the day, it wasn't necessarily access to jobs, it was access to markets because this was an agrarian economy. So the Montgomery Township farmers brought their stuff down to the canal and then to the railroad and brought it to markets in Philadelphia and New York City. Now, right, West Windsor, Plainsboro people they got on the train and they go to that same market because it's a job center. So the Canal was a port village, believe it or not, Port Mercer. But now the Canal is beautiful. If you've not been on it, it's walking, biking, kayaking. It's really actually one of the most beautiful places in the market to go for a run or a walk on a weekend. And it's one of the oldest continually inhabited areas in New Jersey. So again, real estate is all about access to jobs. So, there's a lot of right now talk about inflation and, jobs and stuff like that. I'd rather have great jobs and a little bit higher inflation. I know that's very unpopular than job loss and, declining inflation. It's just my opinion. It's probably pretty selfish because it does support the overall real estate market. So Princeton Junction, again, you can be in Midtown Manhattan, right? In about an hour and 15 minutes. You can be in Newark, and I think I was looking this morning, in 48 minutes to Newark. So you can be at the World Trade Center in about an hour and 10 minutes from getting on the train. If you have to drive to the train, that's a different deal. So there's express trains to New York Penn Station. There's express trains to Newark. You have easy access to 295, the Turnpike, Route 1, all those great corridors to get in and out of central New Jersey. And recently, to complement finally all these commuters, they actually started building around the train station. So I know it was one of those projects that they talked about when I moved here over 20 years ago. It's happening. It's already happened. There's a lot of housing built right around the Princeton Junction train station. The school system, holy moly, crazy good school system. People definitively move there just for the schools. Flat out, we work with clients who just want to be there because the schools are so good and they want their kids in those schools. It is the #1 district with the best teachers in New Jersey, according to niche.com. #2 district, best school district in New Jersey. So it's ranked #2 in New Jersey. #3, best place to teach in New Jersey. So they have 2 high schools, West Windsor, Plainsboro North, West Windsor, Plainsboro South. But again, that school ranking draws people from all over the world. They want their kids in this country, in those schools, because it will give them access to the life that the parent wants for that child. So the schools are a major driver of the real estate market in West Windsor. The housing stock is very different in West Windsor. West Windsor has a lot of subdivisions that are very consistent looking. So you have the Estates in Princeton Junction, which is a newer one. You have La Park, which is a little bit older, right? So you have a lot of subdivisions, like I said earlier in the broadcast, that were built because farms were subdivided, right? Post-World War II, country started expanding. So there's a lot of consistency in West Windsor. You also have historic neighborhoods, Dutch Neck, Grover's Mill, Penn's Neck. Those are older neighborhoods, older houses, definitely some older farmhouses thrown in there. You have Princeton Junction and Berrien City, which is right around the train station. That's some expensive real estate, very Princeton-esque in that the lot is worth more there than on the southern end of West Windsor going towards Robbinsville. Like the dirt there is very expensive because the access to the jobs on the train, and it's closer to the schools too. So you have a lot of different varieties, a lot of different age points in West Windsor for housing. So taking a look at what's happening in the market, the average price, this is December 2025, in case you're watching this, of a single family in West Windsor was $891. Princeton, by comparison, was $1.78 million. Hopewell Township was his northwest from where we're sitting, definitely from West Windsor, $859, right? Single family average home price. The median price was $967. Princeton's $1.58. The high single family that was sold in West Windsor this year was $2.2 million. Hopewell, $3.1 million. And again, as you said 15, 20 years ago, there'd be a $2.2 million house in West Windsor. I would have said, you're insane, but you were right. So congratulations to you. The cheapest single family house in West Windsor, $426,000 versus Princeton at $525 and Hopewell at $200. So that gives you a little bit of the length and breadth of the market. So the closer you are to the trains, the more expensive the house, great school district, et cetera, et cetera. So again, when you are moving to West Windsor, here's the 5 things you need to know. Schools drive everything. Access to the train drives everything. So school reputation does affect home values, does affect speed of the sale, neighborhood competitiveness. People who are already enrolled in North will not go to South and vice versa usually. The train station is what we call a market multiplier. It's got higher prices. It's got faster appreciation. As a buyer, you have more competition. So the closer you are to the Princeton Junction train station, Berrien City, Princeton Junction neighborhoods, it's just very fierce down the neck of the woods. Toll Brothers built down there, right? Not that long ago, like 10, 15 years ago. And those houses blew up in pricing because, again, you could leave the house, walk right to the train station. So they try to build as much as possible around the train station for obvious reasons. So it is not a homogeneous market, despite the fact there's a lot of subdivisions. It is very different. You have newer subdivisions, you have older subdivisions, you have HOAs, you have some that are just single family, no HOAs. So, a price on a house on the southern end, the Robbinsville end of West Windsor, Princeton of West Windsor, will be priced very differently than something on the northern end that's just as new or whatever. It's a very specific market as a buyer. You do get more space, right? But you get less walkability, sort of like Montgomery Township, whereby, you have a bigger house compared to Princeton, right? But you can't really walk to town, right? If you want to go out to dinner, for the most part, people will come this way to Princeton. But you can get a garage with that house versus Princeton, but you probably won't. Lower price per square foot. It is a car-dependent lifestyle on the weekends, I would say, to go to dinner, that kind of thing. A lot of retail on Route 1. So there's like Trader Joe's, there's Whole Foods, there's all these different commodities that you can take advantage of as a homeowner in West Windsor. The other thing too, it doesn't have a lot of turnover. Like West Windsor, we've seen a real severe drop-off in housing inventory. I don't particularly see that changing that much in 2026. It'll get a little better, but not a ton. So again, if you're a buyer, hesitation will cost you more money than if you're prepared. You got to know the 9 things that it takes to buy a house in West Windsor. So again, if you found this broadcast helpful, please subscribe, share it with anybody. If you have questions, always text me, 609-773-8054. And that's a wrap on why West Windsor is an awesome place to live. This is the Wilton Report, and I'm Josh Wilton.